Hey, everybody, welcome to week 283. 283 today. Just a couple more weeks or one more week before we shut down for Christmas. So that's a good thing. Technically, I will not be on next week. We'll see. It's supposed to be a day off, but it's already filled with work stuff. So we'll see about that. But nonetheless, we've got Chris and we got Ryan coming in, and like Ryan is, coming in hot. And I think we only have you guys for the first half hour, if I'm not mistaken. Is that right, Chris?
Believe so, but if the conversation moves, keeps going, I'm happy to stay on for a little bit.
Oh, you are a good team player for Jack. You're making him happy, and you're wearing the shoemaker badge proudly. So that's a beautiful thing. So thank you for doing that. Um, yeah, so I guess what we'll do is we'll go ahead and start. So anybody, first of all, people, you know, I'm wearing as neutral of a color as I could. You mix a little blue, you mix a little red, and you get this kind of color, depending on what the mix is. But nonetheless, we are a super divided country. It seems like it's even more ever than ever. But we've got a Democrat lobbyist, and we got a Republican who is fashionably late. So we'll see if Ryan gets on here. Oh, hey, hey,
There
hey,
it is.
Ryan, speak of the devil. Ryan is on.
Sorry. Yeah,
By
Ryan,
the
Ryan,
hair of your chinny chin chin.
yeah, Ryan was out hunting. Chris
I
is,
was I had a call that ran long. Sorry.
no worries.
That's okay. Yeah, we're just busting your chops in your absence. That's what we do here.
Yeah,
Uh,
Hey, that's okay. Hey, I'm
we're
good with that.
we're diving in, Gary. Is it okay because I'm anxious and I want to ask the first question? Can
yes,
we dive in? All
ask
right,
the
cool.
first question. You go for it.
All right, so Ryan and Chris, thanks for being on. We really appreciate this. I think the we're in the middle of tax planning season, so we're seeing results, for our clients right now, how they did. And, not shockingly, the big theme I think was also echoed by the CEO of Bank of America, Brian Moynihan, at a recent event here in Charlotte is that we don't care what it is, we just want some certainty. And that certainty would really fall into three categories: um, tariff policy, immigration policy, and whatever's going to happen with health insurance.
Yeah.
Because even any sort of fundamental changes to what's already in existence are going to impact in some way even employer sponsored plans, because that's going to be like the next shoe to drop to say, well, I mean, because of this change, Adam, your rate's going to go up 10%, because that's just what's been happening since the dawn of time. So what say you guys to any odds of having any certainty around here, based on what you're hearing behind the scenes?
Look, I would say good luck with that.
Okay.
Good luck with certainty. You're going to get anything. I mean, there's been anything but certainty this year, and then moving into a 2026 midterm election year. Um, I think you will have, you know, 3, 4, 5 months of legislating, and then it'll pivot hard toward messaging. Um, and there'll be the big kind of must pass legislation that things may get hung on. But I mean, look, tariff policy, we're gonna see what happens when the Supreme Court rules on these tariffs. And if they kind of strike down Trump's authority, are they going to what will Congress do then, if anything? Immigration, look, I don't even think you're going to get a full year funding bill for the Homeland Security Appropriations Bill. I think that may end up as a continuing resolution because of the politics around immigration, and you're not going to get comprehensive immigration reform, especially in the midterm election year. And healthcare, I mean, these are the Obamacare enhanced premium subsidies that they're talking about right now. Um, you know, there could be something that happens by December 31st. I mean, I don't think so. Next week is the last full week of legislation, or the Congress is in session for the year. So, and there's still a lot to do. The House passed the National Defense Authorization Act yesterday. They're still going to have to do, they have to do appropriations bills before January 30th to avoid another government shutdown, which I think that they will do. I think five of them at least will get passed. You may have a few others that like Homeland or um, uh, labor, health and human services, education that may get a CR, or state and foreign ops, some kind of mixture of that. But to sum it up, unfortunately for the business community, chaos will reign. And the only way to avoid some of that is to be engaged in the process.
Before Chris chimes in, Ryan, do you believe that the Republican side of the aisle, and I'm sure Democrats would have the same question, do you believe they actually understand the consequence of the chaos? Like, in other words, like, do they really understand that, or is it more like, yeah, yeah, we know that's a thing, but not really. Like, in other
Uh,
words, like, do they understand, like, the hair should be on fire, right now?
Understanding and doing something about it are two different things, right? I
Yeah.
think that they understand, but you have a lot of different, especially, I'll speak from the Republican side. Within the House Republican Conference and even the Senate Republican Conference, you're seeing, multiple factions within that. Moderates versus conservatives, defense hawks versus people, folks who want to cut defense spending. Um, and they, I think they understand it, but the willingness, or the political will, more importantly, to do something about it isn't there, because it's like herding cats.
Yeah, I got you. Chris?
Um, so let me just start by saying happy holidays and Merry Christmas to everybody and all the listeners. So thank you, and thank you, Adam, Gary, and Jack, for having us on here. It's always a great time and great conversations and questions. So thank you again. Um, I think there's a lot to unpack there. A lot. I agree with Ryan on a lot of it actually. So I think we're in agreement on the fact that we love wearing our shoemaker vests here that we both have on, as well as that there is significant dysfunction on Capitol Hill. Let me just sort of unpack the healthcare uh, discussion here that's really going to, in particular today, which is timely, take a lot of attention. It is the elephant in the room there, right? So I think there's many reasons to be skeptical about a bipartisan Senate healthcare bill coming together today, or probably before December 31st. I think one of those main reasons is because Donald Trump's been on the sidelines. So you have a group of, in particular, Republicans who are looking at some moderate Republicans saying, hey, we should do something. We need to pass some sort of potential extension. You have others who don't want to. You have members on the Democratic side of the aisle, right, who are pushing straight ahead for these subsidies to be expanded for 3 years. gung-ho. They know where they kind of are for the most part. That's not going to really help anyone meet in the middle, especially again with Donald Trump on the sideline. So I think what happens is that this lapses. I think also you have a Speaker Mike Johnson who's not interested in really seeing these subsidies move forward. There is a small group of moderate Republicans who are in vulnerable seats who are pushing for something of some sort on the House side. So you do have this group along with Democrats in the House side pushing for an expansion. Now we'll see how this all plays out. But again, without Donald Trump, and without Donald Trump sitting on the sidelines, I don't think you get much action on this. So I think the chances are pretty bleak, especially if Trump remains uninterested or unwilling to really kind of move forward. So again, all the pressure falls on John Thune, Leader John Thune, and Speaker Mike Johnson. As for what we're looking at in the business community as it relates to uncertainty, again, more dysfunction, I think, right? This 43-day shutdown wasn't just a sort of glitch, right? It was a symptom, I think. I would describe it as of a deeply fractured majority in Congress. And I think it's just a signal that more is to come next year. Now, Ryan pointed out that it's an election year, it's a midterm year. So yeah, Congress, the first 2 quarters, as I would say, will be proactive legislatively. They're going to have to be with the CR that's coming to fruition on January 31st. But after that, by May, June, they're done. They are in total messaging, legislatively focus, and in campaign mode. So there are going to be very few must-pass vehicles after that. NDAA, obviously, yesterday being one of them, but that was much harder than it has been in years past, because then let's not forget, NDAA is usually a bipartisan piece of legislation that moves, and it was very difficult, especially for Mike Johnson, Speaker Johnson, last night, making last-minute calls to bring over some of his folks. So expect a lot of messaging bills that have no chance of passing. If you expect, and I say this to the business community, don't expect standalone bills. Don't wait around for standalone bills that might impact you, because it's not probably going to happen. It's just not. So that's kind of where we are here, I think, in Congress going forward. I happy to answer any more questions, but just high view. I don't want to take up more time.
Well, I guess, do you guys see, I think I probably would be aligned that it's a Hail Mary to think that there's actually going to be alignment on healthcare. So let's just assume that there isn't. And then the continuing resolution comes up in January. We're just going to probably have another shutdown, but this time it's like, well, we told you so,
No, I don't. I definitely don't think that there'll be another shutdown. I mean,
Okay.
not at all. It doesn't do any party good at all. Especially heading into a midterm election year. On healthcare, I think that, if nothing's done by December 31st, those premiums revert back to a pre-COVID, the pre-COVID amounts. And, they from that point, they may or may not do anything, I think, depending upon what the political environment dictates. And to Chris's point, does the president get involved?
I quickly, Adam, healthcare. I don't think we see anything again. If Republicans were really serious, they would have had something ready months ago, potentially, right? Now you're just seeing them spitball out legislation that they've cobbled together over the last couple of weeks. That's just the reality of it. So it doesn't help. Democrats have a talking point for the midterms. They're going to hammer it. This is going to be their club if and when these subsidies expire. So that is going to be a midterm play. Another play, and this was brought up by Ryan, and you asked of it, as it relates to, say, affordability and the general economy. I want to point out, you're getting mixed messages from the White House right now on that, and I don't think that helps. I don't think that helps Ryan and his folks on his side of the aisle. Donald Trump has called affordability a Democratic hoax. In one instance, he's also called on the public to kind of be patient about affordability and high prices at the grocery store or in your energy bill. So you're getting mixed messages. That played out in the elections on this past November. When you saw Democrats win governorships, as well as a number of small House delegate legislative seats in Georgia or in Virginia, where they swept, as well as Pennsylvania, potentially in school board um, races, as well as in New Jersey. So, is it getting through? I don't believe so. I could keep going and tell you why, but I think Republicans have a lot to kind of figure out here over the coming months. And then also you have in the background, and I think it's important for your folks and your listeners as it relates to the business community, you have the one big beautiful bill out there, right? And that is going to start to kick in, and Ryan can talk a little bit more about that in the coming months. So I do think Republicans aren't running on it. In fact, they're not even talking about it right now. But a lot of the provisions in the OBBB, for better or for worse, will be kicking in May, June, I believe, of next year. So that might give the business community something to look into. We can come back on and talk about that. I'm sure you've already looked into it, but also an opportunity for Republicans to talk about it, given that they've kind of had their head in the sand over the last couple of months about it.
All right, guys. Thank you for diving in right into the ring of fire. We appreciate it. And you guys live in the ring of fire. So, two questions from Matt. One, in every successful team I've ever been on, conflict leading to compromise leads to better decisions. Has the pursuit of keeping power through any means necessary, including redistricting, voter suppression, removing administrators across every dimension of the governmental regulation, created an environment where compromise is seen as weakness? So that's the question number one. Let's address that first, and then we'll go into the second one.
Chris, you want to go first this time? You're on mute.
I'll go.
Okay.
I'll go gladly. So that's a great question. I believe there's a case. I don't know if is it at the Supreme Court right now? I can't keep up with everything as it relates to the Donald Trump firing the FTC chair or one of the commissioners. So no, this is not good. It's all plays out between tariffs, the dysfunction within with government, mass firings at Doge, and some would argue, hey, listen, we saved a ton of money and got rid of a lot of people. I also saw a lot of people rehired by this administration because they went too far and they needed those individuals. So whether it's, again, tariffs as it relates to soybeans and what our farmers are going through now, we're getting a bailout. There's a lot of stop-start with tariffs. It's very messy out there. And one thing I think the Democrats have realized to the question over the last several months, from between April and now, is that they're done. There's basically like a number of the United States senators saying, the hell with this. We're hard nosed on a lot of things. Now, maybe there will be some room for potential approach minibuses if they have some pet projects in there. But for the most part, you have, again, a minority leader, Chuck Schumer, fighting for his own political life. You have on the Democratic side of the aisle, minority leader, why can't his name escape me? You have the minority leader on Hakeem Jeffries, thank you. Looking at saying to himself, the gavel is within reach. Why are we helping anything right now move? So I think it's only going to get worse, and I don't think it helps the greater community at all. Donald Trump and J.D. Vance are going to be traveling to Pennsylvania back and forth, touting things. Half of the companies that they're going to go stand in front of have been impacted by the tariffs negatively. So I don't get it. I don't know how they spin it, and hopefully that answers part of the question.
Well, look, I think Chris put it very well, but what I'll say is, look, there's nothing new, right? That comes along in the history of Congress or the United States government. Conflict is here now, has been in the past. I mean, look, you used to have, people firing literal shots at people on the House floor, in past history, right? I mean, now the shots that are taken are on social media. So conflict has always been there. It will always be there. Now I do think that, um, you know, we, I don't know what it is that would bring, I hope it's not like, I mean, look, 9/11 brought our country together, right? I hope that there's never another incident like that, or another, it doesn't take a national tragedy, or an act of terrorism to bring people together. I hope, look, when I worked in Congress, I worked for members of Congress who were willing to find, um, compromises with folks on the other side of the aisle. Um, Now I don't, I think we live in a very divisive time right now. This kind of ebbs and flows throughout history. We just happen to be in a in a valley of chaos kind of right now, in a valley of conflict. Now, I think we'll ultimately kind of work out of that. But look, we live in the greatest country on the face of the earth, and um, and media helps push a lot of these narratives because if it, what is it? If it bleeds, it reads.
Yeah.
And it's, every day people are taking pot shots at each other. So I don't know what it'll take to bring that unity back, to get onto that 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 mountaintop of compromise, but we'll get there.
I like
Really,
that.
really quickly, can I just jump in one
Yeah,
real
go
quick,
for
Gary?
it.
I hear Ryan. I agree with him. Things have gotten so extreme it might be tough to get the toothpaste back into the tube there in certain circumstances with the way people have been treated and or ignored and beyond.
Yeah. Uh, I hope you're right, Ryan. But that whole, united we stand, divided we fall. We're feeling pretty like I feel like we're falling because we're so freaking divided. But
What
you
one
go
more
ahead.
thing, if I can add, that look, and Chris is right. Can we get this toothpaste back in the tube? But look, I think you have a lot of negative narratives out there, and that um, sways people away and take an attitude of, well, what can I do? Or
Yeah.
what can getting engaged in the process really do? That's a I think that's a defeatist mindset. And if people or companies or organizations are truly, you know, want to make a difference or want to make a change or stop something bad from happening, even, it's engaging in the process that really, whether it's through just voting or through participation in the political process or participating through the advocacy process through lobbying. Um, all of that collectively feeds into the system, and I think helps it move forward in a good way.
Yeah, I appreciate that. So I'm going to move to question number two. Um, I would hope we all agree with this. And he says, capitalism. Oh, hold on here. Uh, Papa Joe just popped my screen up. We'll get to you too, Papa Joe. But let's see. Hold on. Come on. All right. Capitalism is the best economic system for innovation and growth given. Have we not learned the value of government is ineffective regulation and good public sector management to build and support a middle class? It seems like regulation and government work has been villainized. Anybody want to jump in on that one?
Yeah, I mean, look, I think that it often is villainized, working and engaging with the government, lobbying, or, lobbyists often wear the scarlet L, so to speak. But we help our clients every day move the ball down the field, whether that's, to score a first down, to score a touchdown, or just kind of the old Woody Hayes adage of, 3 yards in a cloud of dust. Um, So we continue to move the ball down the field and protect our clients from having bad things happen to them. And when things can't happen in Congress because of the political vitriol, we engage for our clients on the executive branch and the regulatory agencies and help create the rulemakings, talked with the White House, talked with Department of Interior, et cetera, to try and, it's not just a all Congress approach that we take. It's hey, let's try another approach through the administration and through the executive branch processes. Um, so it's villainized. That's a good political point for people to talk during campaigns and whatever. But when the rubber meets the road, um, we're getting things done.
Ryan, can I ask you a question that's related to that? So I listened to a really good podcast recently about the birth of Southwest Airlines and how they became so successful. And part of the story was the deregulation of the airline industry. And I was pretty young when that happened, but it used to be that the government set the prices in the flight routes. So as we hear that today in 2025, that seems ridiculous that someone even let that happen in the first place and stay in effect for as long as they did. Good reasons maybe for it in the beginning to help the airlines get started, but like in 1978 when or whenever it was when they started the process of deregulation that then Reagan carried through, it's like that was ridiculous. So when people talk about Ronald Reagan, deregulation, it's like I kind of feel like the context matters in terms of like absolutely overregulated. But at like what point do you think that the Republican Party recognizes that, well, some regulation is good? Like there's got to be some rules, and there are some things that are in the public good because, at the end of the day, private company self-policing historically has never worked. Because shareholder value always takes over at some point. So what do you think is sort of like, well, where is the right answer on, regulation that actually is protecting the public good versus like and providing value versus like overregulation versus we cut this shit too far.
Yeah, I mean, look, from a Republican standpoint, people say, "Oh, deregulation, deregulation," but the fact of the matter is we're not. It's not a Wild West mentality that Republicans have. Uh, it's a, it's a mindset of having smart, effective regulation that, look at right now what they're trying to do. Look at AI.
Mhm.
Um, there's talk of doing you know, at least for a short period of time, a state preemption of of AI regulation or AI governance because it's still such a nascent industry. You have data centers and everything popping up all over the place all the time, and and people still don't know how to wrap their heads around that. I mean, look at the 1996 Telecom Act when we Al Gore hadn't really invented the internet yet. So when that bill was passed, it was almost immediately out of step with where the industry was and outdated. Um, so I think from the Republican standpoint, we want smart, effective regulation, but allowing these nascent industries, like AI or others, to flourish, but have the appropriate, guardrails on them.
Chris, what do you think about the same question?
Yeah, I mean, I was going to comment on AI, and Ryan really captured it. Look, AI is here, whether we like it or not. Congress is semi-addressing it. There is this preemption push by the White House and the administration preempting states. That got a lot of backlash from members on both sides of the aisle. So there was an opportunity. There's an instance there of some bipartisanship and pushback on the administration. Look, the AI is somewhat of the Wild West. Reminds me a little bit of NCAA and NIL, but even maybe bigger and scary, obviously bigger and scarier. But AI they need to figure it out up here, and there is going to have to be some room for compromise. I actually wanted to point one piece out that while we have been somewhat melancholy, there has been over a dozen plus bills that are probably going to be moving off the House floor potentially next week. They have moved through the Energy and Commerce Committee. They're bipartisan. A number of them are, not all, a number of them are bipartisan permitting reform bills addressing NEPA, broadband, permitting, so allowing, to build. Some of them are energy bills. A number of those bills are moving, and there are pet projects in there for both Democrats and Republicans who are voting that out. And there is opportunity in there when you have both sides coming together for the good of business, whether you're a broadband provider or, in the energy space, that can help. Now, some of these bills are going to get Democratic pushback because they believe that it's going to hurt the IRA and beyond. But there are areas where you still could see some compromise that can help and benefit your business in the ecosystem beyond, which we are helping to usher through with some of our telecom clients right now. So, yeah, AI is top of mind, but there are a number of smaller bills. It's, again, energy, water, railroad, and broadband that are moving through right now. So we'll see what's another life when it goes to the House, Senate, but there is opportunity.
So Joe Farrell has been on here probably since the day we launched this in early March or middle of March 2020. So he always asks great questions. He says, so this is a jump ball to both of you. We want both of you to address it. Would you both agree that the abuse of government funding of programs by the past administration, and I would say administrations, but past administration, is a major factor in the representatives becoming intractable?
Um, so look, I think I'll come at this. We have a $35 trillion debt, give or take, whatever it is.
Yeah.
And there's no real effort. We're playing around the edges when we're trying to address our national debt. And because there's not a political will, or there's not a kind of policy window of opportunity, or anything that's pushing people to address these. Like Social Security isn't failing tomorrow. I think the day that Congress deals with Social Security or Medicare or anything like that is the day before it falls apart. um, and so yeah, I mean, every past administration's use of government funding programs is always a target for the opposite party for the next election. But no, until there's that crisis moment or the political will, we're still always going to be playing around the edges, I think, when it comes to government funding, government programs in general.
Chris, what's your take on it?
I mean, I get to my Republican friends that, blaming Biden for the economy or right now and blaming Biden for X, Y, and Z is kind of the popular thing to do. I would just say what's going to make things worse isn't necessarily misdeeds or bad legislation from the previous administration. What I think is going to make things more intractable today is calling for states to gerrymander their districts mid-decade, as opposed to waiting out another 5 years. So you can still retain power. And when you gerrymander, we're not getting districts that are purple. We're getting deep red or deep blue districts. And so now we're in this arms race, and people who are going to be coming to DC with new faces are going to be very, very, very dug in. And so it will just continue with the finger pointing. And whether it's the previous administration at Biden or Trump or Obama, whatever you want to blame anything on, that's where we're gonna be. So that's my answer.
I agree with Chris 100%, by the way. I hate this redistricting effort. I think it's short-term gain for long-term pain. And it is it's not I just don't like it. I don't like it. Um, I'll leave it there.
Yeah, yeah.
So guys, I have lots of questions, but I held my tongue because I know I can reach out to you otherwise, but I want to respect your time and the promise that I made to you to only have you here for 30 minutes or so. And we're over a little bit, and that's even with Ryan making up his few minutes being late. So um, I will say that I am a little bit jealous. I have a lot of shoemaker swag, but I don't have a vest like that. So I'll
Yeah.
be chatting to
Jack, ask a
Eric.
question. You can we got 2 minutes. You can ask a question.
You want,
You
Yeah,
want to
you
ask a
want?
question? You're
ask
being
a
so
question. Let's
polite.
go.
Ask a question. It's all good.
Okay. All right. So you guys have mentioned this, but it was okay. If we take the top three things that we've talked about and say, all right, yeah, there's, not going to be agreement or there's going to be problems with immigration and everything else. You mentioned some others, AI, and what would be the maybe top five things that you would say that, the B list of open issues that you see in the early months prior to them going into campaign mode later in the year that there might be bipartisan support for, or maybe relenting and saying, all right, fine, we got to show some agreement on some things, so we're just going to say yes to this and let it go and then focus on the other stuff. What would you say is kind of the top five things that would be addressed on the B list of open items?
Oh, I don't know. I can't think of five off the top of my head. So Ryan and I like to
Okay.
share this, but I think, obviously the appropriations process, Leader Thune, he won his leadership race because he went back to his caucus and said, I'm going to bring things back to the normal order. And we're going to go through our processes to move appropriations bills. That was music to the ears of a lot of Republicans. And that's part of the reason why he's in the leadership position he is in now. So look to see what happens in January. They're not going to get these little minibus appropriation bills out this work period, it sounds like, and Ryan will be able to answer that, but it doesn't sound like it. So that I think is first and foremost. And then obviously the CR on January 31st. Keep in mind Congress is only in 2 weeks. To both chambers are in only 2 weeks in the month of January, and then separately another week or so. So a lot of work to do when they get back there. I imagine some of these permitting reform bills that I mentioned a couple minutes ago, they might get kicked to January as well. But if they tee that up, they can, on suspension, that might be able to move. Ryan, how about I'll think of a couple more.
Look, I think that one of the areas is permitting reform. I think this is a big opportunity for Republicans and Democrats to come together, because this is not about just energy. This is about the affordability initiative. We're seeing across the country these data centers pop up, and we as a country need more electrons on the grid. We need to harden the grid. We need to expand the grid. And this is the problem is only going to grow the longer Congress doesn't address it. And I think they can start that process of addressing it with the bills that they're talking about now. Now I know one of the political hot points is kind of on the renewable energy side, with wind and solar, which this administration has, not hid their feelings about offshore wind, especially, or wind in general. But the fact of the matter is that the Democrats need or want, expanded, or they need permitting reform for, expanding the grid, getting more of these high power lines, these interstate power lines, to get more electrons on the grid. The Republicans want it for, people always point to oil and gas, but it's not just oil and gas. I mean, we have more oil and gas in this country than we know what to do with, which is why we're exporting a lot of it with LNG, which is good for us. But we need faster permitting for nuclear. We need, to get more of those types of electrons on the grid. And it's not just about coal. It's not about oil and gas. It's about, solar's not a bad thing. It's just, how is it permitted? Where does it go? Um, and we have an abundance of natural gas in this country, and we can create more, natural gas generation in this country. We can convert old coal plants into gas power plants. Um, so there's, you know, this is the big area, I think, for compromise.
And
If
you,
I could just quickly add,
yes, of
Jack,
course.
we need to look at international affairs and Congress's role in that. It's clearly been usurped by the White House when it comes to Venezuela, and they're trying to retake that. I think we need to keep a eye out on tariffs as well. That will come back. They've kind of fallen off. The cycle here in news cycle a little bit, but tariffs will crop back up, especially with the Supreme Court ruling. And so international issues, Ukraine as well, tariffs, I would say. And also, I think another piece of legislation that's important to note here on this call is the Farm Bill. It's like a massive legislative package governing U.S. agriculture and food policy. So it's set to expire again, and Congress is going to have to take that up. In that is like SNAP, which we hear about all the time, and other large provisions impacting the Farm Bill. So in the state you guys are in, so we will be a part of that with our clients, working that vigorously as well. So there's still some big ticket items, and then the biggest one I would say that we'd mentioned, but it's going to be healthcare again. We'll see if they can get anything done, but it's healthcare.
Yeah.
And I'll add one more to that. The surface transportation bill, that needs to be reauthorized by, I think it's like September 30th, 2026. So that's almost like a mini appropriations process, right? There's a bunch of projects kind of tucked into those bills for roads, bridges, airports, different things like that. So this will be a big deal for Congress going into 2026, specifically because it allows members to go back to their districts to say, I built this bridge, or I got the money for this bridge, I got the money for this road, or I got, the airport expanded. So there's opportunity there for companies and organizations to get involved in this process, to really make a difference. Whether it's, that's not, they'll talk about, FAA too. We have we need more air traffic controllers. We need the ATC system in this country continue to be upgraded. Because we're having, because it's not just about commercial flights. You have you have drones out there now. Walmart and Amazon want to deliver things to your house by just dropping it from the sky. So I mean, we don't have enough air traffic controllers now to deal with commercial flights that we have. How are we going to handle, the airspace when it comes to drones? So there's a lot there's a lot there for transportation related issues as well.
So that brings me to a follow-up question, which is, and you said, okay, people want to take credit for building bridges and roads and everything else. You'd also said previously that you don't think there's going to be another shutdown. And is it, I would imagine it's not because all of a sudden people have become enlightened and cooperative and collaborative, but is it related to the fact that they're going into campaign season and don't want fingers pointed at them, so they're going to find a way to cooperate? But yet, I mean, that's still, what at what level of cooperation does that mean moving these things forward? Because I would imagine you can't kick the can down till next December after the elections, right?
Chris?
Yeah. So yeah, I guess quickly we'll see how long the CR lasts because they're looking over their shoulder. I don't know how long they negotiate a new CR as well. So they might be looking over their shoulder in 6 months again or 3 months, right, Ryan? I would say. Um, Also, I think members are going to be introducing a lot of messaging bills, so they can tout a lot there, anyways, even knowing it's not going to go anywhere. They're going to be touting a lot of messaging bills when they go back to their district during Easter, August, October breaks. And I would just say Republicans take a lot of credit for a lot of infrastructure bills right now. Let's not forget about the IRA. I see a lot of them posting about how money came in despite the fact they voted against it. So I think yeah, I couldn't help myself there, but
You
I
just had to throw it in there.
I had to throw it in there. I could not help it. I see it all the time on X. So there's going to be opportunities for them, but yeah, these are massive bills. These are massive pieces of legislation. So they're going to have to get their act together on it. And again, I think it will also depend, Jack, what the president does and what his posture is. Now, you see some of these Republicans kind of breaking away a little bit. I always point to MTG. So how does that play into it as well as something else we all need to consider?
Sorry, I was thrown off by the IRA comment. What was the question again? I'm sorry.
It was, so what happens, as far as the collaboration and cooperation and not having a shutdown? Because you made the comment that you don't think there's going to be, and you were pretty confident that it would not happen, that there would be another shutdown. But is it because people don't want fingers pointed at them as causing, whether you're Republican or Democrat, fingers pointed at them and says, you're part of the problem and you caused this, and therefore we're going to vote against you? Because it just, I mean, that would mean that, they kick the can down the road, but could they do it for another 12 months until after the election in November of 26? So what does that look like as far as getting to what is the cause of why are you confident that it's not going to happen? And is it because they don't want big fingers pointed at them?
Yeah, so I'll answer your question and use this as an opportunity to get my political shot in too. Is look, I think that um, shutting down the government did nobody any good this past, right? Like all it was trading the blame game for 43 days, I think it was, or whatever it was. I know 43, 50, 54, whatever it was. Um, and the what bills they can't compromise on by January 30th for fiscal year 2026 will just get a CR, a full year CR. So that'll go through September 30th, right? Um, and because the path of least resistance is a CR for those two or three bills, whatever it might end up being, that can't get to it. Because look, I mean, the answer for the Democrats in Congress is just to throw more money at everything, where Republicans are, you know, don't believe that's the answer, that real reform is necessary. So there, I got it
There you
Boom.
go.
Yeah,
Threw it in.
boom.
in.
And they're both smiling and they're both wearing the same vest that Papa Joe is deeply he's jealous of that. And I think so is Jack. So you got
I got a lot of swag over the past quarter of a century, but I don't have one of those. And so I'm going to
Dr.
have a
Whitney
talk with our
Byrne.
director of marketing.
Oh man.
Chris, you're on
Guys,
mute.
thank
Jason
you.
in our office was walking around with a blue one yesterday. It was nice.
Yeah.
Oh man. Got to get a red one then too. So, right, maybe what we should do is get Chris a red one and Ryan a blue one, and then guys hang together.
Well, that's the look. I mean, this is the thing. Like, Chris and I are joking here, taking these political barbs back and forth. But I love Chris. I love working with
Yeah.
Chris. I love our team here at Shoemaker because it truly is a collaborative environment, both not just within Shoemaker Advisors, but with the law firm too. Jack is always a great, or has continues to be just a great champion and voice for advisors within the law firm. And so, Jack, we appreciate that.
Yeah, and it's very much reciprocal that, advisors, you guys will get on the phone and talk to people who say, that people that are throwing their arms up in the air and saying, "What can I do?" Or I can't do anything, right? And you're like, "Yeah, you can." And build a coalition, or these are the things that you can do, and don't feel powerless for that. And you guys have empowered many of our clients to do something assertive and be proactive rather than reactive in a way that they wouldn't be able to do anything after the fact. So we really do appreciate that.
You guys have any more questions here? Anybody popping up? Gary?
Well, we got one question in here from Joe. He says, like, where did all the money that was allocated to build out the EV charging network go? That is a good. I know
It was all spent on about two chargers. Each one was about $3 billion.
exactly like the governmental waste. I mean, look in Minnesota right now. Come on, billions of dollars. Who knows where the heck this has gone? But like, and it's rampant. Like if we would just cut out the waste, which is what I really actually liked about the concept of Doge. I don't know that the execution of it was what we were hoping for, but nonetheless, like if we just had some accountability, uh, we go a long way. But I think we've just had, and you could point to people on both sides that have screwed stuff up and taken advantage of because they're thieves, regardless of what their political affiliation may be. At the end of the day, the rest of us kind of hurt,
So,
suffer.
if that related to that question, my understanding is that the five, I think it was 5 billion, their money came out of the infrastructure bill under Biden, but some of that, I believe, was pulled by this administration. I mean, there were major cuts, right, to a lot of IRA and even some of the infrastructure bill. That might have been the EV money might have been gone because I thought maybe that was part of the reason why Musk threw his fit 6 months ago or whenever it was. I can't even think of the timeline.
He threw it because of the $7,500 credit went away. The charging network under Buttigieg, that's the issue that people talk about. Like, hey, he did really nothing on it. And this isn't, I'm not trying to make a political statement. I'm just talking about waste in general. I mean, we're doing that here in Charlotte. We're going to do a $3 million PR campaign to tell people that it's safe while we still have no monitors on our trains. And we've had two stabbings and one is dead because of it. He's like, yeah, come on, that's the kind of stuff that we just, regardless of who's in power, we need some common sense and some accountability. And if you guys can help drive that message home with our elected, legislators, that would be a really good thing. Because as
That's why
business
we're up here.
accountability, we live and die by the ins and outs, and we don't have slush funds or whatever, and we can't hide the weenie. But there's a lot of that happens in government. Again, I'm saying either side. So if you guys can help drive that message home, like cut the waste and like let's have accountability, that'd be a beautiful thing.
All right, boys, I'm going to let you go for real this time because I know you guys have noon appointments and need to get
Thank you,
prepared and maybe
gents. You
switch.
guys did a great job. We sure appreciate you, and we'd love to have you on again. But you guys have really done a great job. Thank you.
Anytime. Thank you.
This was
Thank you,
great, guys.
guys.
Thank you. Have a
Awesome.
great
Thank you.
Christmas and holiday. Safe travels, and we'll see you in the new year. Happy
You
to come
too,
back
bud.
on.
Merry
Let's go,
Christmas.
Thanks,
Cam.
guys.
Take care. Thank you.
All right, guys. Well, thank you.
That's fun. Those guys are always fun, and it really is. I mean, when I'm around them in person, and I get to see them a couple times a year, whether it's at a firm gathering or they come down here. They'll come down here together for something that is run by a Republican group or a Democrat group, and so they really do work well together. It is fun to get them in the same room and throw a powder keg into the mix of things. Usually, I wait till a couple drinks into the dinner before I do that and make sure that there's
Smart.
no one else around us. Like we don't have clients and everything else, but then it's
Yeah.
like, okay, guys, what do you really think? And then
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
provides for some interesting conversations.
Yeah.
I gotta tell you, I didn't ask the question, but they were more pessimistic than normal. So I appreciate the optimistic turn at the end. But the thing that kept on going through my mind was that, you know, our inflation is a little bit higher than the normal inflation rate, and our GDP growth rate is going to be down a little bit, but it's still growing and we're still the biggest economy in the world. But imagine what we could be.
Yeah.
Like we go like, well, I mean, we're still the number one economy in the world, but think of what could be, like I think that's the depressing part when I started thinking, or the part that gets me the most fired up. It's like,
Yeah.
you know, if they could just compromise, I wonder what would be possible. It's like unbelievable.
I agree with that, man. Um, and it still comes down to, it does feel fatalistic many times. Like, man, um, I've campaigned for really good people in town that, just got obliterated. And it's like, man, and they were demoralized and, that sort of thing. So it really can be, but at the end of the day, as business owners, I still think the best thing that we could do is run our companies well,
Yeah.
provide good jobs for people that we care about, provide great services and products for people who need them, and screw the public companies. I mean, they're going to do what they do. They follow the money. They're on a quarterly basis, but and the bureaucrats, yeah, we got to get out and vote. We still have a lot of people that actually sit on the sidelines and don't. But I still think that we as business owners have the greatest potential for affecting change. And I think a lot of faith-based organizations too. I mean, that do take care of those that the government fails to or refuses to. I don't know what the choice is there, but nonetheless, thank you guys for joining us. We appreciate it day in, day out, week in, week out. Jack, thanks for getting your colleagues teed up. And I know
Of
that can
course.
be kind of a politically dicey thing in a company, but you guys really do a good job in not, going
Yeah.
around the edges and avoiding the hard conversations.
Yeah, and I mean, there's lots of them. I mean, they're the two that we've asked to join, but I could ask a number of others, and they all are like that. So I don't know, maybe there's 20, 25 of them. There's probably more than that
Wow.
now because we have several offices for shoemaker advisors up in Ohio and down in Florida. We don't have an office here in North or South Carolina. But yeah, absolutely.
Those guys are great. I mean, I like the personalities of both of them. And it's kind of fun to, go, and neither one of them are wallflowers. So, well, I guess you can't be if you're going to be a lobbyist. So, hey, thanks so much. We'll put this up on the BGW YouTube
Yeah.
channel, and Shoemaker will do the same thing. Right on, Matt. Thank you so much for being on here. We sure appreciate you guys. You have a great week.
All right. See you
Thank you.
guys.
See
See
ya.
y'all. Bye.